Today is the first death anniversary of one of India's legends, business icons, and someone who was a human, a good human being at the very end of the day, someone who represented the very best of not just India and Indian values, but certainly the very best of humanity. Mr. Ratan Tata, the former chairman of Tata Sons, one of India's best-known industrialists, he passed away on the 9th of October 2024. Today marks exactly a year since his demise. And it comes ironically at a time when the boardroom tussle that is going on essentially between Tata Trusts, which is a non-profit that controls Tata Sons, and the leadership of Tata Sons. This week, just earlier this week, it reached the corridors of power with a meeting chaired by the Union Home Minister, attended by the Union Finance Minister. We'll talk about all of that and more, about a fascinating human being named Ratan Tata. Someone who knew him for over 30 years and worked with him very, very closely is Suhel Seth, author and columnist. Thank you very much, Suhel, for joining us and taking time out for this special segment on our broadcast tonight. I want to start off by asking you about a piece that you wrote this morning for our sister concern, Moneycontrol. You talked about remembering Mr. Ratan Tata as someone who was a good human being more than anything else. And I want to quote from a small portion that you wrote. I've always believed that Mr. Tata epitomized the perfect Indian, where nationalism was not jingoism, where being Indian was a state of mind and not a flag-waving desire, and where he stood in the face of everything that he encountered in his life. He stood steadfast and with a rare sense of stoicism. Can you describe to us, how all of this, what you wrote about Mr. Tata, sort of encapsulated the person that he was more than the business leader that he was?
Being as erudite you are, you would remember a character called Brutus from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And he represented stoicism of the highest kind. When Mark Antony asks him, why did you stab Caesar? He said, it's not that I loved Caesar less, but I loved Rome more. Ratan Tata loved his country. He loved his people. He loved his colleagues. He loved his friends. And he loved unconditionally. He loved the voiceless animals that he deeply cared for. In many ways, Zaka, as you very rightly said in your opening remarks, Ratan Tata epitomized the finest of human qualities. Everyone says, oh, he inherited the Tata legacy, but it's a very, very tough legacy to inherit. And even tougher when you embellish that legacy even more, especially when you follow in the footsteps of another legend called J.R.D. Tata.
Yeah.
So in many ways, Ratan Tata, to my mind, stood firm because he genuinely believed in what he did and he did what he believed in. And that's important. There was no curation. There was no cultivation. There was no a desire to do things that would please people. It had to be the right thing and it had to be done the right way. When Singur happened in 2008, when Mamata Banerjee created a firestorm in Singur, Ratan Tata walked away. And he says, I'm not going to go to court. I'm not going to fight this because we don't want to be somewhere where we aren't welcome. Narendra Damodar Das Modi, who was then the chief minister of Gujarat, now our prime minister, welcomed Ratan Tata. And in that conversation with me on your sister channel, on CNBC, Mr. Tata he says, Narendra Modi gave Nano a home and he made it happen in 3 days. That's the kind of man Ratan was. He was caring, he was erudite, painfully shy, and someone who wore genteelness, not as his hallmark or as his birthmark, but something he genuinely believed in, which is why you're right when you said that he was different from the rest.
Yep.
And in many ways, inspirational as also aspirational.
So since you mentioned the interview that you did with Mr. Tata, I think it was one of the last full-fledged, full-length interviews.
It was the last interview.
To anyone. It was to you, to our sister concern, CNBC. So I want to play a chunk from there where you're asking him about, succession plans. And this was, I think, a few years after he left the running of Tata Sons full time. And so he had a sort of, 35,000 feet view of how the company was running at that time. So I want to play out that chunk first, and then I'll come and ask you, now in hindsight, was he right about a few things? Yeah, let's play that chunk out.
Now that you're at arm's length from the operations of the Tata Group, what excites you the most about the group and what worries you the most, if anything worries you at all?
What excites me is the area we're working in now and trying to transform the trust, because we're actually, in a manner of speaking, having the same excitement as one did in setting up an industrial enterprise, dealing now with trying to reach people, trying to provide healthcare,
The National Cancer Grid.
the cancer grid, nutrition. And while the trust cannot take care of the country, we're setting some footfalls in the sand, which I must say the state governments and the central government, they're all supporting us fully, and I think what we're trying to do is taken as being genuine and honest, and it's very rewarding to see state governments and the center working with us, things that some people would say could never happen.
So that's the trust. What excites you about the Tata, the House of Tata, the industrial bit, and what worries you the most, if anything?
I think it's too hot a question to answer, given what we've been going through in the last several months. All I'd like to say is that I feel that the group is in very able hands with Chandra, and businesses are cyclic. They will have their ups and downs. We have been a group that has worked with companies when they're in peril and brought them up. And I hope we can continue to do that.
So it's interesting, you asked him, the first question was about the trust and the second question was about Tata Sons. And I know, this is in hindsight, this was, 2017, so 7 or 8 years ago. But front and center of what's happening right now, Suhel, is also this thing about trusts and sons. And I think from that interview, it's very clear that Mr. Ratan Tata had a very clear idea of what the trust was supposed to do and what the sons were supposed to do. And somehow he didn't see any kind of clash or any kind of subset or where the paths cross or the paths clash. Do you see that? I mean, had he been around today, he would have been surprised at what is happening, because it essentially seems to be a sort of fight between the trusts and the sons.
Actually, it's not. And I'm so glad you asked me this question, because I've been avoiding all these, the channels and interviews and blah, blah, blah. Here's the situation. Noel Tata is the chairman of Tata Trusts. Mm-hmm. The Tata Trusts has its set of trustees spread over the many trusts that Tata Trust it has. Tata Sons chairman is N. Chandrasekhar, who, by the way, has done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Just look at the market cap, look at the increase in revenue, look at everything. The repayment of all the debt, the NBFC classification gone, all of that.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no chaos. And a lot of people are reading the fact that, 4 people went and met the Union Home Minister and the Finance Minister. No one knows what happened. But everyone is conjecturing, is the government stepping in? Is there chaos? Nothing will change. Nothing. We today are on October 9, 2025, Zaka, and I will wager with you, nothing will change. This is not a ship that is at any peril, either at the trust's end or at the son's end. So for all those who are conjecturing, my advice to them is, when you know, speak. When you don't, keep quiet. Nothing has happened. And I'm not saying this to put a spin. Let me tell you, the structure is very clear as R&T mandated it, as Mr. Tata mandated. There would be a separation between the church and the state. The Tata Trusts has as many nominees on the Tata Sons board as Tata Sons has the number of independent directors. So when Tata Sons increases its independent directors, that will be matched by the trust's nominees who will sit on the Tata Sons board. I don't ever see. The second thing I want to park, and I want to say this on the record, all this nonsense, Noel, Chandra, they have a superb relationship. Look, N. Chandrasekharan is a Tata lifer. He's not new to this group. God bless his soul, Cyrus was technically knew. He was never a Tata lifer. He sat on the Tata Sons board from 2006 until 2016. Chandra is a Tata lifer. You saw in the clip which you just played, Mr. Tata said that I'm delighted that the Tata Group is in the safe hands of Chandra. Chandra is not the kind of person who will rock a boat and doesn't need to. He's very self-assured. His extension came in bang on time. There is absolutely no issue with N. Chandrasekaran or with Noel Tata. I mean, I don't know if you've ever met Noel. Noel is shy to a fault. You ask anyone about Noel Tata, they'll say, "Bada gentlemanly aadmi hai." So a lot of it is being alluded to. Oh, there is a fist fight. There is not fist fight. There is a massive a cockfight going on within the trust, and Tata Sons is at peril. Nothing of the sort. So all those Johnnies who think they know have no goddamn idea. There is not a problem because the articles and the separation between the church and the state is clear. And you don't know, I don't know what the Home Minister or the Finance Minister said. And please understand, when they met all four, how do you know what they were discussing? Because I will tell you one more thing. The Tatas are seen not only as an industrial group, they are seen as the embodiment of philanthropy.
Correct.
The Prime Minister went to Guwahati, where Himanta Biswa Sarma, the Prime Minister, launched a slew of cancer hospitals in the Northeast. Mr. Tata, who was at that time not too well, went all the way. That's public record. So, we don't know what they were discussing, but everyone wants to conjecture, oh, my God, is there a problem? What's going to happen? Nothing is going to happen. This is a house built on trust. It's a house built on values. And it's a house built on integrity. Okay. Noel is a Tata. Chandra is a Tata lifer. I mean, what on earth can go wrong?
I also want to play out and go back to another portion of that interview. And interestingly, even in the first chunk that we played out, this was, I think, a few months after this whole, battle that happened with Cyrus Mistry had just concluded. And you've written in the piece as well that that was one of the saddest days that you've seen Mr. Ratan Tata. But let's play out that second portion. Again, this is about succession. This is about how he envisioned the future of Tata and this relationship between trusts and sons. So I can play out that second chunk as well, and I'll come back to you in a moment, Suhel. Yeah.
What do you think went through the minds of the founders when they set this up, and especially transferring their value in Tata Sons to the trusts?
Well, I think it was a different view of ownership. Mr. J.R.D. Tata often used to refer to Tatas as being the trustees of the people. The Tata family could have become tremendously wealthy by having distributorships, partnerships, etc. in the businesses. But most of the businesses, whether it was steel, whether it was power, or institutions, were set up as institutions for the country. So Jamshedji Tata could just as well have dedicated Tata Steel to the nation or dedicated Tata Power to the nation. They belong to the shareholders and to the people. Personal ownership and personal wealth happened when it happened, but was never the criteria for these companies to be established. So it was natural that he did leave his ownership to his two sons, and then his two sons, who had no children, left them in charitable trusts as beneficiaries of the companies that they held. So it was a refreshing change that gave way to ownership in an industry not being for the beneficial interest of A or B or C, but for the better good of humanity.
So one interesting thing that he says there was the founders envisioned the Tata Group to be the trustees of the people. And again, I want to, juxtapose what he meant, because it was clear that, they wanted it to be controlled by a philanthropic organization. Profit, if it comes, comes. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. Those are the words that Mr. Ratan Tata used. So again, just envisioning the what the founders had in their mind to what is happening now. Do you think there's a disconnect, or do you think ultimately, like you said, it'll all resolve?
No.
Because
So,
the holding company is not here for the money, right? They're not here for profits, as Mr. Tata explained.
so I think it's a brilliant question. Let me explain it in a very simple manner for all your viewers. Tata Sons is the holding company and the investment company for the Tata Group industry businesses. Tata Trusts is a shareholder in Tata Sons, but Trusts is a philanthropic organization. They own 66% of Tata Sons. Whenever Tata Sons declares a dividend, that dividend comes into Tata Trusts, which is then disbursed for all the charitable programs that the trusts run.
Yeah.
It's very simple and it's beautifully calibrated. Zaka, come to think of it.
Yeah.
Now you tell me all the noise that has been made over the last year, Tata Sons will get affected. No. N. Chandrasekaran is the chairman of Tata Sons. He is responsible for Tata Sons and all the operating companies that Tata Sons controls. Noel Tata is the chairman of Tata Trusts, and he is responsible for all the philanthropic activities that the Tata Trusts run. Noel Tata is not an interventionist or is even interfering with Tata Sons or vice versa. So I see absolutely no overflow, overlap, intervention, interference at all.
All right.
Which is why, Zaka, you're the only person I spoke to. Everyone wanted an angle of destruction. Everyone wanted, Armageddon is falling upon us. Nothing is happening. Tata Sons will continue to perform admirably, as will Tata Trust under their two respective leaders.
All right. Suhel, thank you so much. I know you've made this exception only for me and for CNN News 18, so I really appreciate that. And it was a fascinating conversation, a fascinating insight into a company and individuals that you've known for many, many years. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.